Hello, everybody. Welcome to the second annual live special of the World of Brickfilms podcast. I am your host, William of AW Studios. Joining with me is my first guest, Zach Macias of Mind Game Studios.
Hello. How's everybody?
Hey, and also as well, joining soon will be Penta. I think he's on his way. I think he's currently recording something at the moment for one of the entries. But yeah, it's great to have you as our first guest. You were there at the very first THAC back in 2005, and you're also a mod for this year's THAC. So yeah.
Yeah. It's unfortunately I can't participate this year because I gotta go to work in a little bit, but I still get to be a judge, so I'm involved in some way. So I'm happy about that at least.
Yeah. So
Thac. And
hey, Penta.
Here's Penta. Hey, Penta.
Now you can say that as always. I'm here.
Oh yeah, and I'm just gonna do the second half of the introduction. Joining us as always is my good friend and co-host Sean Willis of City Penta.
Actually, if you don't mind, if I just leave and rejoin, I can join with a camera as well.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no worries.
Sounds good.
This is where we get to see. This is a very special episode because you get to see all of the kind of like a little bit. It's almost like behind the scenes side of things, where like we're having to work on the technical side of things and tweaking stuff. You know. But
everybody loves a live production.
Yeah, well, it's always the kind of the exciting tension of like what's going to go wrong. But
exactly.
But no, what is so let's see. This is the second time we've done one of these, and last year we did like a watch party afterwards. But then I kind of thought now we're kind of we're like the sophomore year, we're kind of working things out a bit more. It actually looking at evaluating things, and I realised that like doing a watch party when people are animating and THAC is probably not like the best idea, so we're just going to be doing more of a kind of something you can enjoy whilst you're doing your entries.
Right. Yeah, save it for after everything is done. But yeah. So do you have any ideas in mind for what you're gonna replace it with?
So yeah, we just got more guests basically.
Right on.
I'm gonna actually try and keep it fairly secret. Also, you know who's joining us, but I want to keep it relatively secret as to who's going on. I mean, I guess I can give some hype. We got some big names. We got like Nathan Wells will be joining fairly soon. We've got Corey Pines, who'll be joining later on. And yeah, we got and yes, the rest you'll have to find out later. But,
you'll have to stick around and listen. Fact, the most wonderful time of the year. How early do you have to be to? How early do you have to be getting up? Or no, because for you it's midday currently.
Yeah. So it's kind of funny because like I see like all these people like commenting about I have to get up so early. Some people are getting up at like 4 o'clock in the morning. And then there's me. I just get up at like 9 o'clock in the morning. Don't have to really, lie in. Leisurely
at your leisure, just get to wake up, have breakfast, and get a nice relaxed head start against the rest of us who have to stateside who have to wake up at between 4 and 7.
Yeah.
I guess if I was on the East Coast, 7 o'clock wouldn't be the worst, but it used to be 5 a.m. Back in like I don't know how long ago it was. It used to be 5 a.m. before. Oh, I know, because it used to be a summer contest, and that was during daylight savings time. So we had the extra hour. So instead of 4, it was 5 a.m. in like the early days of the 24-hour contest. So at least we got that extra hour. Not like it did much help, but yeah. Getting up at 4, it's one of the. I would say one of the tougher parts of that, because that's like you have to really like force yourself to like get a good night's sleep and like really commit yourself to getting up like at the crack of dawn.
Yeah, oh, definitely. And I think it's not like an easy thing. I mean, I've always struggled with the not being able to, like, what's the word, like what's the word? Like, yeah, I've always struggled with, if I know I have to get up early the next morning and I get extra early, and it's straight, immediately I'm just sort of like I'm just stuck, like I can't go to sleep because I know I've got an early start and I've so yeah, I think it's probably quite. I'm sure a lot of people feel that way with, like, getting ready. They're already tired when they start, and, but the way that I think for a lot of people it's hey, you're back. Yeah, but I think for a lot of people it's this thing of even if you have to start at like 4:00, it seems really daunting, but you're always going to be kind of like, it's the 24 hours, so it's always going to be difficult for people just to stay up for 24 hours anyway. So it's like, I think it's kind of equal for everyone, really.
Yeah, it's like kind of like everybody is going to face like a struggle with energy at some point, because we're all in like, yeah, like we all have that 24-hour timer. So like whether or not like you start at noon, but like you're gonna like start passing out by like midnight or something, or I don't know if what I'm saying makes any sense, but it's like every never mind, I don't know. Hey Sean, how you doing?
This webcam is uncomfortably wide. I'm surrounded by too many games and amiibos. It's it's a bit cringe.
You look like you're going to do like a sort of review of the latest Marvel film. Or...
Yeah, my space is kind of a mess. I sort of have a short video that I was starting. I wanted to get it done for Christmas, but I didn't get it in. But a little Luke on Hoth parody over there, which I still might try to get done. Just because I think it's a fun idea. But
I'm really glad that you still make like projects like that just for the sake of it. Like, I figure that you're a very inspiring figure, because like you've been at it since 05, like more consistent than anyone really, and always on the forefront of technical standard, like film
thank you
and such.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, I still have these little ideas that I think that are perfect for Lego, and just kind of I wouldn't know what to do with otherwise. So Lego is still just kind of the perfect little medium for whenever you get just like a little bite-sized idea. Yeah, you can just easily just assemble it and just go for it. That's kind of what I really loved about brick filming all these years. Is you have that flexibility and that accessibility to just whatever idea you have, just go for it.
Yeah, on a small scale. Yeah,
exactly. And just I mean, I don't know if you can see right now, but like I got like a C-stand with all these different lights and stuff like that. Just kind of from humble beginnings to where I'm at now.
I was thinking the same. Recently, I was thinking to myself, I have so much Lego. Recently I've been sorting it, and I'm thinking I've actually made very little use of my Lego. In reality, I've only made small scale films, lots of them with the exact same set for since 07, and then. And like I was thinking to myself, I could never stop because I have too much stuff. Like I've got too much Lego, too much camera equipment and lighting equipment, and
it's like even if I wanted to stop, like what am I gonna do with all this stuff? Yeah, exactly. Like it's got to get some.
It would be going to waste if you ever stopped at this stage.
Yeah, it's like like you're pot committed. In to use a poker term, you're pot committed. Might as well see it through to the end. But no, I mean,
sometimes I consider certain brick filmers. I consider some people are what I call lifers, and it's a very, very, very small number of people. But there's a few lifers out there, like David Pagano, Nathan West.
Oh yeah, people who will probably always have a hand in brick filming one way or another. Yeah, I'm probably one of those people myself.
Yeah, sorry to say, but we're never going away.
Nah, it's got our hooks in us. Nah, just when we thought we were out, it's gonna pull us back in, always. Nah, but I mean, when they keep producing stuff like the Lego Yoshi's and like the Lego Super Mario, like why would you want to stop? There's too much fun stuff to do.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
I feel like last year I felt like really represented. It meant a lot to me that Sonic the Hedgehog was that we got the Sonic Hedgehog set. That just finally there's justice.
Exactly. And now all the great and terrible Sonic related ideas that we have, we can finally bring to life.
I have to remember to hold my tongue because my mind was just spinning with all the horrendous jokes I didn't make. But
Oh, how the internet has completely defiled the good, the child friendly nature of Sonic.
I have no idea what you're talking about, guys. What do you mean?
I'm looking at it right here, and I've got my Billy Mays figure from a few facts before.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a fun one.
That was a good one, yeah. The snipper sweep.
Yeah.
The snipper sweep, yeah. And I wanted to make more Billy Mays clips. So I'm trying to keep a list of like random, just random items that he would be selling. Like I'm trying to keep a list of those just in case I ever want to come back to Billy Mays. Be like, okay, what's he selling today? I want to keep
the live
his
chat, and I see that people are surprised that I have face cam.
Yeah.
Oh.
Hello, people.
He's not just a disembodied voice over your Discord.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't realize that we even. I mean, I guess that makes sense. We have live viewers, but kind of nice for having a conversation here.
That's what I'm saying is I have to keep that in mind.
Are judging us. Yeah. It went without saying at the start, but yeah, that's why we're not like cussing or going beyond.
I was recently re-listening to the podcast we did with Joni Phillips, and it's really funny because at the start I say, "Okay, everybody, we have to remember to not swear," and then there's 10 million swears in the podcast.
And then Joni comes in, she's like,
Yeah, that's the thing. It's
it was long to edit all of those swears. It's 3 hours long.
Yeah, I didn't do a lot of editing before, because I think the thing is, well, with the podcast, it's weird because you kind of think of it as I think it's sort of relatively PG-13 ish, so it's you can get away with the one S, but then I just left all of them in, and then it's then I had to go through them again.
Too far, yeah.
And then it was just going through the 3 hours again.
Did the Spotify robots pick it up and be like, "Oh, this is explicit"?
No, it was just us, and as staff of BIM, we were this is an official BIM podcast, and I'd say we've mildly loosened standards from where they have been in the past, but we still have standards,
Yeah,
right.
I mean,
right. We still have to acknowledge that you still have to acknowledge that there's a significant, younger audience in the world of brickfilming. But then again, there are those of us like ourselves that have seniority and have been doing this for for a decade plus.
Of course, there's always that push and pull of trying to keep a space where adults can actually hang around and not feel weird about it.
yeah. It's definitely a tricky tightrope to walk. But yeah, I think Bricks in Motion has handled it. Well, I mean, just brickfilms.com and Bricks in Motion in general, I think has handled that really well. I think just having the central hobby and having that thing that we all can kind of latch to, ask questions about or give feedback to, having that, I think has kind of caused everybody to, of all ages, sort of be on that same the same wavelength, and I guess it helped make the commute. It helps kind of give it a better sense of community, I guess.
But obviously, as the years have gone on, I've joined other Discords or been invited to join that haven't been around as long as Bricks in Motion, and when I join, I have that feeling of I'm too old to be hanging around just kids now, you know?
Yeah, I know exactly. I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's like
I become inactive in them. But
in
you're
a
right.
lot of them.
It's that this this lineage has been going for so long. And I think it was, well, obviously because we can always refer back to the really old days and say like it's always been like this here, like in this thing that we've kept rolling along over all these years. Like,
Yeah.
and I think it was probably great back in like before YouTube and stuff. Like some of the people were parents themselves.
Like,
Like,
oh yeah, like Robert and Richard
Films.
Frost, right? Yeah, and Rachel and
Yeah. So
and of course the I was gonna say the monkeys too.
Oh yeah, the four monkeys, yeah. Yeah, but they brought that sort of like perspective, like just a good feeling within the community of a space where, yeah, people could coexist and get along, and it wasn't strange.
Yeah, no, it was. I mean, it's weird to say, but yeah, I pretty much grew up within this community. So yeah, it's just kind of just sort of kind of yeah, like it's just always been there for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think all of us here who are in the call right now, we could all say that yeah, we grew up in this community on either one or two of the sites, and like it's literally shaped our, like, not just our where we are, what we're doing in real life, but like it's shaped our outlook on life, like
Very much so.
Mindset. I mean, like, I don't just mean in the sort of like general way of seeing the world, but like pretty much everything I know about how to make a brick film pretty decently well is just stuff I've picked up basically from you, Nathan, and Smeagol over the years, over all the years.
Well, thank you, and likewise, I've watched your evolution as a brick filmer. To mean from where you were at the early day in the Benny and Lee's to like where you are now with Taco Trouble 2, and just seeing the tremendous just growth you have as a storyteller. It's it's like I've known you now for going on like 10 years now, just to kind of having watched that evolution. It's incredible.
Well, I mean, I can still remember when you commented on the one I did in 2008 called The Spring Clean, a Benny and Lee film, and I was like blown away. I was like, oh my god, Mind Game likes my film. I was 12, so I was like massive.
Oh, wow.
And then the fact that like over the years, then I could say, oh my god, now like Mind Game is actually like a friend of mine. So like.
I know.
Yeah.
I
feel like a pretender. I always have, like I'm just following along, like with what the generation that's always been like just before me is doing. So like I still can't shake that.
I felt like for me it's like I feel so similar like when I started doing the podcast, which I mean I can't believe it. We're getting to like 5 years. This year in April it will be the 5th anniversary of the podcasts, and I was only 17 when we started doing that, and I've been Brickfilm. I've been a member of Bricks in Motion for just like 2.5 years, and I was really just starting to really kind of feel like I was getting to know like some like the old core members of the community, and it really kind of like I was so kind of like amazed, like just like every time we'd have like a new member, someone come on like Mind Game or like and it always felt really kind of like I can't believe that like I'm getting to do an episode with Zach Macias, or it was just like a huge thing for me.
Thank you.
Yeah, but and like Go Let Go or any of the names.
Yeah, because it's funny. Just that these people become like mini celebrities in our eyes, like the Jay Silvers, the Spite Your Faces, the Stefan Trogers, the Maxime Marions. Like, yeah,
it's really funny when William and I were at Steiner Eye last year in Germany, and Mirko walked in, and I looked up and I just said, "It's Mirko." And he looks at me, and he's looking at me like, "Who the hell is this guy? I've never seen this guy before in my life."
I mean, even my eyes just lit up right there. Like, oh man, Mirko.
Yeah.
Oh, but that's a name I've not heard in a while. I'm glad he's still going strong though.
Yeah, but then so we talked with him a lot. It was great.
That's good. That's awesome. Him. Yeah, and what's so great about FAC is that it has this historical like tendency to pull like brick filmers just from out of the woodworks, just like people who have not like people who have been dormant for years, like will come back for THAC randomly and produce something, and that's also part of like an ancillary part of the tradition of THAC. At least over the years, it really kind of brings people to get together and and some of those like legendary animators with seniority will make the effort to come out to participate in THAC, and I think that's really cool.
Sloth Paladin is currently trying to make an entry, and he's been around since one.
Way to be. I would be if I didn't have to work today, but I know exactly the person I'm thinking of, and I cannot remember the name. It'll come to me at some point, but yeah, somebody just was an active Brickfilms.com member, then kind of. Yeah, that's it. Aunts. That's it. Yeah. I knew I could count on you. But he would just show up and make a film for THAC once every couple of years.
No, it was like every 10 years in a row, I think. Like every year he'd show up, do a THAC entry, and he'd never be seen again. Like
exactly.
He did nothing, but he just entered THAC for I think roughly 10 years.
And that was all they did, and it was great.
There's been other people like that as well. Recently we've seen Steve Collins and Dara Toomey return. They did last year's THAC.
They did. Oh yeah, and that was really great. Yeah, because the quality of the animation is still good, and Dara has evolved so much as a content creator and as a performer over the years. That one was just. Was so
and
funny.
The writing and the structure and the voice
and the performances. Everything was so good. That one came in second place, right?
Yeah.
Well deserving.
It's so tight. Like it's so much tighter than the loose and drawn out dynamic duo films we used to make. Where everyone's walking around.
It's really impressive for a THAC film. There's so much to it, and it's really it's just really well put together and really well performed for a THAC movie. It's great. And
I noticed in the chat that Bertel quoted me saying, "I feel like a pretender," and then he says, "The man behind the History of Brickfilm series and Tucker Film series." But I almost feel like the History of Brickfilm series is like it's like an extension, a continuation of me feeling that, because it's like, I joined the community in the second half of 2007, and I watched everything that was made beforehand. Like anyone who was posting on the forum all the time, who you could tell by the way other people responded to them that this was one of the big guys. I'd go through their entire filmography and watch them all. So I feel like with the stuff I've done on the wiki and the history series, it's almost like I've never stopped. I've been in the same mode of I have to catch up. I'm behind everybody else who's cooler.
It's you're in the rabbit hole. It's gotta keep going. The only way through is forward.
Or the only way through is backwards. But
I guess in that sense, but just keep yourself just inundated with that. Yeah, because there's so much history to it I didn't even realize. I mean, I've learned so much just about it just through your series.
Do you feel though
wasn't well known. A lot of it wasn't.
Do you feel though there is a level where I think we could pretty much all relate to some degree? That we're pretenders. I think of myself as a pretender compared to you, because I mean you've been around since 2007, or doing all this stuff, and I came to see in 2015.
Sure, I guess,
and it's
every generation will feel it if they plug in with and associate with the long running community. But it's I do feel like we make a very intentional effort to draw a distinction between the past and the future. In documenting history and all, it's okay, that's just documenting history. It's not an appeal to return, we're not slipping into this conservative mindset of being oh, everything was better in the good old days and we need to go back to the good old days. We keep the history as the history, and we keep what's good for the future as what we're doing with Rick's mission, looking to the future.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You don't want to be that 21 Pilots song, we could turn back time to the good old days.
Getting stuck in the bed.
I'd like to hope that like
when the mama
you're...
sang us to sleep, but now we're stressed out.
I hope more people will come along and sort of feel like they can join in, of course, but like generate their own like friend circles while also still being associated with the people that've been around longer. Because like it's very hard to gauge until you're looking back on it retroactively, I guess. But like, you know, that's how it worked for a long time. Like, there'd always be a new crop who'd sort of befriend each other while also interacting with the people who were there, who've been around before them. And then, like, over time, they just sort of blend, you know?
They all kind of, it becomes an ingratiated part of that community. I agree. Even back in the days of Brickfilms.com, there were definitely like groups of like friends within the community, but it was all part of a much larger thing.
Yeah.
Like I remember, like Ace Ricardo, Matt Gillen, and I want to say Joni. Yeah, great. No, it was crazy. It was great. Yeah,
I mean, okay, not much later. It feels like a long time in my mind because I was so young.
But yeah, like I remember they had like a thing going for like back in my day. I was like really close with the two people, Iceman and Rolls. I don't know if I'm saying that name right, but ROLZ. But yeah, like that another group there, and then like I also had Nathan when he came along a couple years later. Yeah, but like everybody just kind of like found their.
Yeah.
I don't want to say click because it wasn't like that exclusive because we all kind of just generally like knew each other, but yeah.
I mean, I'd argue that it was cliquey, especially back then. It felt very hard to penetrate.
Yeah. Okay. That's
you know,
fair.
That was also bolstered by the fact that the directory standards were so strict. So a newcomer would show up, submit a film, and immediately your film's been rejected. So they wouldn't feel very welcome.
I miss the old Brickfilms.com directory. I miss the old ratings system. One of my favorite things was just like going through the different categories and like listing them by rating and just kind of seeing what was the cream of the crop.
Yeah.
And what I wanted to aim for in my own.
In that era, it was so, I guess, pretty infrequent enough for like really good stuff to come out that like it felt like as soon as something that was obviously really good came out, it was like instantly written into the canon. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas
I feel like
there's Brickfilm was on that quality standard coming out literally every day. So
there's so much of it, and it's just it goes back to just the explosion of YouTube and what that did for content creators, all over the world.
I was thinking about this as well recently. I was saying earlier that you're like an inspiring figure for being around and continuing to do stuff, but I was thinking The Cleaners is an inspiring piece of work because before The Cleaners came out, it sort of felt to me like we'll always have in my mind at least stuff like Stranger Than Fiction and The Profession and Beast and like the Alex and Derek films. They'll always be sort of segmented as like the classic ones, and then new ones will be new ones. But The Cleaners showed that like you can still have a new release that just combines with the classic ones. Like it popped off and has that like cultural.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I'm really, really pleased with just how the Cleaners turned out and how it's been received. And yeah, I mean, it is kind of a latter day success in that sense. Like it's like the one Brick film that like seems to have like really like popped off more than others. I'm trying to say this in like the least self-aggrandizing way, but typically I upload a video that's like and it gets like. Between like 1,000 to like 6,000 views, something. That's fine. It has its lifespan. I'm happy with it. Like I remember, like I don't know however long ago it was, but I was just looking over The Cleaners, and it's like it's like still it's like well over like 100,000. It's still picking up like a couple thousand like a week. And I was like, okay, yeah. Like Nathan and I, we say like it's one of those films that's kind of found it's evergreen on you it's found. It's found like the audience, and it was able to kind of find a life of its own outside of like whatever like Nathan and I could do to promote it, and we were both really pleased and happy with that.
It's not just views, but it's clear that people have taken direct influence from it. Sometimes when I see them, I sometimes send them to you or Nathan, and I say, "Oh, here's another Cleaners Corps film."
I love those.
I think it's one of those.
Whenever you send me one, I always save it. I have like a folder of all like the little cleaners.
Yeah, I always.
I'm so happy and I'm so humbled by that. Like, I just love it.
I think it's not.
See that somebody's been influenced by your work. It's always a really nice feeling. Like, it's not. It's never like, oh, they ripped me off. It's like, oh my god, somebody was influenced by something I made. Like, that's so awesome.
Oh yeah, no, like I'm not gonna get angry with that. I'm gonna be I would be completely flattered. I would just be honored. I mean, if somebody, there's a difference between a rip off and a tribute, but still, like, to have made something that inspired somebody else is just.
I have to say
really
just quickly, while we're talking about the Cleaners, like the Cleaners was also inspirational to me because it was sort of like it sort of showed that if you make something good enough, like people still will catch on to the fact that it's actually that good, and so that made me think I should make Taco Trouble 2 on like a standard that's way too like it's way higher than anything I've done before, and it's like practically irresponsible. Like it's just so stupid how long I spent on the lighting and the set and all.
I love the way
it is genuinely really nice to see what I feel is. Sorry. Yes, I think it's generally nice to see what I feel is kind of like the quality of something being rewarded. Like when it comes to like, I feel like the Cleaners. It was very kind of evergreen because I don't think it had like an immediate like massive number of views, but it just continued to grow and it stayed within the consciousness, of people, and it just.
See, in the chat, Jaguar says the Cleaners was a huge inspiration for him as well.
Yeah. Well, I really do appreciate it, and I promise there's another one coming. But I mean, I am really appreciative, and I sometimes I'm like I don't. When I say I don't know what to say, it's like that's a good thing. Like I'm at a loss for. Like I really and especially what you said about Taco Trouble and just how amazing that turned out. It just on a technical level. Like I really thank you.
Yeah, I mean, because like I feel like without, obviously I'm not chasing views, but
it is, yeah.
I want to feel that something that is made for that long and with that much effort. I want to think that it might have at least some cultural penetration in brick filming,
or some staying power. You want
staying power. That's a good way of putting it. So I think that it was the Cleaners that made me think like this might actually be worth it if I like take way too long on this.
And it's true. Like, yeah, it's I had the thought in my head I was gonna say that, then just went away. But yeah, I think it's just one of those things that like I believe in my heart that people will always recognize quality, even when like it kind of seems bleak in that sense. Sometimes I think people will always recognize effort and recognize quality. And I think that's kind of why things like that will, just continue to grab people's attention and stay with them.
Sometimes it does feel bleak, especially recently. I've been seeing like Lego Mr. Beast or Lego Tommy in it, and I'm like, and they have like 8 million views in like a week. Like, if that's the future of Brickfilms, then I'm out. I'm just leaving.
And speaking of the Cleaners,
like we always have this underground.
Speaking of the lead, Bert himself. Nathan,
but I was gonna say we always have this underground thing going where people still like catch on to more sort of artistic endeavors, and they can still get like a couple thousand or a couple tens of thousands of views if they really hit like that.
But here's the thing about stuff like that, like Lego Mr. Beast or Lego, I don't know, whatever. They have no shelf life. Brickfilms and stuff that's made to like capture memes in the moment or trends in the moment or like stuff like that. They'll do well in the moment, but they have no shelf life. You have like nobody wants to go back and watch nobody wants to go back and watch, like, I'm gonna make it up, like a recreation of like the Iron Man 2 trailer in Lego from like 2000 and whatever. Like it was cool in the moment, but like it has there's a limited amount of time that people are interested in seeing something
Probably
like that
a
when
very
it
good
when it's so
example is
topical.
Yeah,
trailer
it's
recreations, because
it-
like
Mhm.
trailer recreations from 10 or more years ago, they don't have individual wiki pages, but Major Malfunction has an individual wiki page.
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
think you've got to think it's not just the number of views, but also the impact that those those views those films have on those viewers. Like I feel like
right.
stuff like that. Yeah, kind of like Mr. Beast. I mean, I haven't really watched any of those kind of brick films, and I don't really plan to, to be honest. But like, I feel like they're not going to have the same,
They're well made,
impact.
but I just don't care. I cannot care that they're well made because they're just hollow, like on a on the base level of just the concept behind them.
Yeah,
There's
I
just
mean
nothing
they're
there.
fun. They're fun to look at, and if they're well made, then you can maybe learn a thing or two from like the techniques they use, or like, but like it's just like the content of the video itself. If it's just it just doesn't like. There's no reason to come back to it like ever again after that initial watch.
It's actually always stuck me that the clip that if you saw my Tony Mines tribute video in full, the clip I put at the end, like when I first saw him explain it like that, where he said, "Oh, you've just taken a film and done it the same."
Yeah.
That's it. That's what's always bugged me. Like, that's why I couldn't even get behind it when it was really well made. Because in the back of my mind, it was always, you've just taken something and done it the same. Even though I don't think I think that Spite Your Face's Monty Python one isn't exactly done the same, because they're actually adding in humor about the fact that it's made with Lego. Like, they replaced the prisoner stuck on the wall with a Lego skeleton and stuff like that.
And it's something
William articulated that well in the tribute video. I was really happy with William's segment, because like, even though William's obviously newer, like, you articulated all the stuff, like why the Monty Python one's better than most recreations, and the fact that those videos were like massively viral online before there was a singular view counter. Like, they were massively viral. You got all that, like, well, factually correct and like across well, and so I wanted to put that early in the video so like newer people would hear that stuff. So I'm really happy with this segment.
I really liked what you said about that with Lego Monty Python, and just the distinction of like a simple recreation with like why that had such the charm that it did for being like a recreation, yet it was still so distinct.
Yeah, well, I think it's this sort of thing of
look funny because it's made with Lego. Like, what can we do with the Lego medium while making this? Whereas 99% of recreations are, we need this to be one-to-one. It must look exactly like the original. What's the most accurate piece? They were thinking, what's the best Lego piece to use for a Lego video?
I think that on the topic of like, I mean, like I guess thank you for what you're saying about my segment. I feel like for me, I feel like what it was like with when I see, like, I say Monty Python Holy Grail, and also like the Power of Doc Ock, it's like there's such a character to it, and such a charm that I just feel like there's something there that's not like,
I always have this worry in my mind, like when I want to tell people to watch the Spite Your Face Brickfilms, I always worry that because I mean, I can remember sort of not being able to consciously think about like direction in Brickfilms. So I can remember, I might look at something and think, oh, the animation isn't as good as something else I've seen, and so I fear that people will look at the Spite Your Face ones and like, the animation it's a bit shakier than what people do nowadays. Like, nowadays everything is so perfectly clean, all the arcs are perfect, everything is just so fluid. But there is also a character to the animation in the Spite Your Face Brickfilms. But the more important thing is the fact that they're just directed so well. That's why they hold up forever. And I love that Zach explained that really well with the Han Solo affair, and multiple people explained that, but it's true. We still talk about them, and that's why we can still take influence from them for how well they're directed.
It's just like in the way, like the shot choices, like the way that the camera is used, and like even simple things like the part where Leia gets captured by Darth Vader, like it's like that close up of her, and then like that lateral shot where she runs into him. Then there's that like close up insert from her perspective that like shows how big and tall he is. Like, just little like just decisions like that is like what gives that film, like the film, so much character.
The Eclipse is commenting, Nathan Wells be like, blank face.
So are you going to introduce me or what?
No, sorry, we're just we're just on our talking about old things kick. We could just once you get us going, it's hard to get us to stop.
Yeah, I wanted
Anyway.
I've been for like the last like 10 minutes been wanting to introduce days. But yeah,
Sorry, I go really fast. And
no, that's okay, guys. Yeah, so I guess speaking of the cleaners, we've got the sort of the second half of the team behind that, and yeah, and also the former host of THAC as well. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
You've done so much that it's sometimes easy to forget.
At one point, I'm pretty sure. Go ahead, Nathan.
I do enjoy the fact under my wiki entry there is like associated with, and there's like whole lines of just like associated with this, associated with this, associated with that, associated with 3 different Brickfilm websites, associated with wiki, 3 different contests.
There's a page you can look at on the wiki. It might be an admin only page, but you can look at like what's the most linked to page on the wiki. I haven't looked at it recently, and it might actually be Zach now because of quarantine days. But for the longest time, it was definitely you.
With how many tendrils does your...
Yeah, just in every little corner throughout history, yeah.
Helps that I founded the wiki so early on. I was just like, this is relevant to me, so I'm going to add this link to me.
You were the original, sort of brick filmer that makes a wiki page about themselves.
Well, yeah, there's no other
the
content.
Thing is, all that stuff that he would remember, that he was associated with, it's all genuinely notable,
And we were early days in the wiki. We were just trying to fill out all the voids. There was so much to cover, so it was just like, all right, we got to put all of the spite your face stuff in, okay, and then we got to put all the contest stuff in. Like, oh, the contest stuff. Well, let's see, Beast isn't in there. Well, Beast is that. Oh, then there's mirrored perspective, and then all that. Well, then we got to do all of Zach's stuff. Oh crap! And now there's all these other people, and then there's all this other stuff.
And
so
the funny thing was, when we started,
it balloons into a bigger project. Yeah,
we thought it was too much work to actually add the YouTube link for each film. We just had the filmographies as just plain text.
Well, we were just trying to fill out so it wasn't 100% red links everywhere.
But you remember, like, the only ones that were links were the ones that had individual pages. But nowadays, all of the filmographies on the wiki, every single film title is a direct YouTube link. But also, when we did the THAC page, we thought, we'll record the top 10s of each THAC, but it's way too much work to record the full lists of entries. And then
that was on you. You decided to do that. I didn't think the other ones were worth the effort, but I always felt that fact film should always be only limited to their top 10.
Well, I mean, the full list of entries are just boxes you can expand to just see the full list, and doing the full lists greatly helped in determining, like, information for everyone else's filmography. Like, if a film is an entry to a contest, it's so much easier to learn that if you just go to the contest page and you can just Control F their name and see what comes up. But I mean, I have this kind of feeling of, like, especially with just listing lists of entries to contests and stuff, like, if the information exists, it might as well be on the wiki page.
I guess, yeah. I mean, I don't dispute that.
Obviously, we have to editorialize in terms of, like, paragraphs of writing. You can't go in minute detail of everything that happened. You have to, like, boil it down. But as far as, like, just factual lists of entries, like, if those can be found, then I'm going to record them.
Yeah, I just kind of feel
it's
like
a different attitude on how wikis are treated. Like, I think, and I don't dispute. I think recording all the information is good, but I also just think things should be notable. The problem with things being notable is
I've got a kind
subjective.
of a story I could tell about this, and that's, I love the Tony Hawk video games, and they, like, shaped my taste in music. And there was this one guy who on Wikipedia, there was one guy who was obsessed with removing the full list of songs that are in the games. Just saying, like, oh, this is just listing minute detail. It's too much detail, and you know, you don't need to just list these. And I was like, this is so annoying because I love looking at those lists to see what the bands are who made the songs. Like,
so some psychopath would just go onto the Wikipedia and just delete the track listing of the soundtrack from Tony Hawk's Pro Skater.
And you know, every couple of weeks, somebody else would come along and they'd go into one of the old edits and they'd add them all back, and then the same guy would come along and just remove them every single time. And sometimes there's these people on Wikipedia, like there was one guy who was obsessed with making sure the Stanley Kubrick Wikipedia page always had a picture of him at age 21. And like, it didn't look like what you think of when you think Stanley Kubrick. And if ever anyone changed the page, one guy would change it back, and he would just insist that it has to be this one of him at 21, simply because it was like a picture in the mirror. Like, oh, he took it himself, so it's the only official picture authorized by Kubrick.
That's that iconic image of Kubrick taking a picture of himself. Yeah. No, that. Yeah, like when I see Kubrick, I see a balding man with a big beard. I see him, The Shining Kubrick. Yeah.
So my experience with, you know, wanting those Tony Hawk soundtracks to be listed on the Wikipedia pages, I feel like that probably shaped why I want all the entry lists, the contests on the wiki pages.
And I've got to say as well, like just as a basic kind of like having just the winning end, like the top tens or whatever, like I can't imagine not having a resource like the Brickfilms wiki, because like going back to like, you know, just thinking like last year's winning entries, like you know, it kind of goes through old forum threads and all that kind of stuff to find a thing. Having this sort of thing where it's documented, and it's, you know, going from year to year, and it's just that's just such an important thing, you know. It's really kind of holding, it's keeping those cemented into history, you know.
I want to know what Nathan was about to say.
Yeah.
There.
I really want to be contrarian, but I don't know. I feel like I've entered a new phase where I'm not necessarily interested in having every minute detail of every possible thing recorded. I think there's a value. There's a value to having things that are, I know, but there are things that there's a value to having things distilled down to what is important. And I feel like having, like, say, using the Tony Hawk example, if it's a good place to have a resource about, here's the entire track list, but does that need to live on Wikipedia, which is the general knowledge site, versus like a specialized site? Now that's why I'm more okay with like the Brickfilm stuff being going into detail, because it is a Brickfilm wiki.
Specialized. Yeah, but like if ever I wanted to look up what the songs were in the games, my first thought was I'll check Wikipedia. Like, Wikipedia will surely have it, right?
I don't know. I've encountered enough Wikipedia pages that wouldn't have that minute detail. I just think it's a different philosophy.
The pages would have had them if it wasn't for one weirdo obsessed with removing them.
I don't know. I just feel like there's a borderline where you're just like, there's some advantage to moving forward and not living so much in the past with all of this minute detail.
I just want to comment to Chris W's comment. Nathan is the guy who deleted the Tony Hawk track list.
Tony Hawk track list.
Oh, I've never played the game, so I wouldn't know.
But yeah, I mean, as I say, like the full lists are just in drop-down boxes where you have to click a button to choose to expand them. Like the page would look incredibly ridiculous if they weren't in drop-down boxes and you just had every single tag had 100 films like burying the next tag. That would be crazy. But I guess at the end of the day, it's too late now. It's all there. And I've already put in that work, so if anyone wants to undo it, then
if anyone wants to blow up my wiki, please don't.
Well, I don't think it needs to be undone. I just think it's a different philosophy in recording stuff, and it reminds me of how I'm going through right now and like purging a bunch of personal items from my house because I'm sick of holding on to this stuff that I've held on to for 10 years. And now it's my personal stuff versus the history of a community, but sometimes, I don't know, I feel like some things don't need to be preserved all the time. I'm not saying...
I feel like I understand what you're kind of...
Am I catching on to your drift?
Of course, you're explaining this to the official Brickfilms.com historian, so like.
I kind of feel
I'm the one who founded the wiki, so I'm just saying I'm not opposing what Pinta's doing,
point.
and I think I think all the stuff that he's been doing is good, and I don't want to oppose that. And I'm not talking specifically about Lego either. It's just like sometimes there's an advantage to moving forward. Moving forward.
Here we were talking about how we draw this distinction between recording the history is just recording the history, and everything we do looking to the future is we're trying to play to the future. We're not trying to appeal to, let's go back to the old stuff.
Yeah, we were just talking about that earlier. Like, there's not really like a concert. Like, I wouldn't say like there's no like how did you put it? Like a conservative like.
That's how I put it.
Yeah.
But like tongue, that might make some people angry, but it's true. So,
well, I mean, in the most apolitical sense, and just in the most like the most basic definition of it, yeah. Like, I
mean,
yeah,
you can say conservative in a non-political sort of way, can't you? Like, it's kind of like
just in the context of the driving motivation behind your call.
That's a good way to put it.
But like, I feel like oh, sorry, I was just gonna I feel like I understand like what like Nathan, what your kind of like philosophy is in that sense, and like you kind of see it almost in a way of almost being like a cluttered room, and you want to kind of make it kind of tidy in a sense.
Yeah, and I'm thinking wider than just. I'm not immediately objecting to recording everything with Brickfilms. I think it's important stuff, but occasionally I get hit with this thinking of like. This is a lot of effort for a bunch of movies made with Lego that about maybe 300 people care about. And it's just like, for me, I'm starting to not care as much. But of course, that's kind of been my thing for the last 10 years. I
mean, that's fine. But obviously, like, most of that effort was done by me, and I've kind of found like satisfaction. Most of the time, if you want to do something, there's already someone out there who's doing it better, and you're gonna feel like you can never be one of the best. But I think with the wiki and like doing stuff with Brickfilm History, it's like I could be the best at something that nobody else really does because there's no competition. But you do have at least a base of people who, once you've done it, they're like, oh, that's cool, like that's interesting.
And that's fine. And again, that's why I'm trying not to specifically target that. It was just a kind of a wider thing that I was going into, thinking about moving into the new year. It's the time for new goals and resolutions and stuff.
I'm kind of with you there. I'm about to do a similar purge of like a lot of like clothes and stuff that I don't use or need or want anymore. I did the same with a bunch of like kitchenware. I'm kind of in a very like, but let's pare down what we don't need and like kind of get some control back over my life and my possessions.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was just mostly. And I just do think with the Tony Hawk thing is just there is some importance and clarity that I think if you're trying to put every information into one source, that's just too much. Like most people who are going to be reading about Tony Hawk video games don't care about the playlist. You go to Wikipedia for the overarching information.
It's one of the most iconic elements of the series.
Yeah, well, I mean, but Nathan's not like really familiar with that, though.
That's what citations to other sites are for. That's where you reference other more knowledgeable sites.
Right on. Are you saying that like the wiki, like just like generally like just like having a central hub is for everything is just kind of like counterproductive in a way?
What I'm saying is you don't go to an encyclopedia to learn the extreme details on how volcanoes are formed. You go to the encyclopedia to find a citation to a particular geology book to learn how volcanoes are formed. Just like I don't go to Wikipedia to read all the plot summaries of a Star Trek episode. I go to Memory Alpha, which is the Star Trek wiki, to learn about all of that stuff. And that's what I'm just saying, is that Wikipedia should be the general knowledge place, where that's why Brickfilms works, because Brickfilms wiki is the specific knowledge base.
It's a very it's a very targeted knowledge base. I agree with you there.
I mean, like obviously on Wikipedia, like the page on something related to brick filming, obviously it's just going to be like, oh yeah, like Bricks in Motion is a website, and it doesn't need to go into excruciating detail about that on Wikipedia. Obviously,
page on Brickfilms is so bad.
It's horrible. It's
does the Wikipedia page for Brickfilms still say Bricks in Motion documentary is due to come out in 2016?
It wouldn't.
I don't know.
I don't like looking at that page because I just hate it so much. And obviously when I see
really
things that are
bad.
wrong, it bugs me so much.
Oh,
it's really bad.
What's the
official brick film? The official Wikipedia page for brick filming, it's really bad.
Penta, what is the thing? Is it called Uncyclopedia? The
there was been around for ages.
I remember you actually deleted like all of the changes I made to that, like when it was like 2015, 2016, and I tried to make things about me.
Because
did
Brickfilms Encyclopedia page was just made by a bunch of like people on brickfilms.com in 07, and it's all very like references to the community from that point in time. So like the encyclopedia page was just completely frozen in time with all these jokes about Aled Owen and crazy animator and stuff.
And like Ace, I bet there's a memory lane joke in there somewhere.
Probably. So like when I was less familiar with you and I saw you like adding new stuff to that page, I was like, no, that's an old dead page. Like it's just a historical document now.
I think it'd be funny to have like a bunch of like brick filmers with seniority, a bunch of like old school brick filmers get together and like do like an interactive version of like the iceberg sort of, or just like maybe not even that, but just like going over just like old like deep brick film lore and just like kind of just talking about it. I don't know.
Of course that was our intention with the iceberg video, to get into those really deep random stories that sometimes might come up in the chat, but other than that they're not going to be recorded on the wiki or whatever. Just to sort of portray the like sort of continuing lineage with funny little community related incidents. I think to generate this feeling of like that there's more to brick filming than it's not just making videos and uploading them on YouTube. Like there's really been all this community involvement and people getting to know each other.
And there are things and there are like jokes that just like live in my head forever that I can't explain to anybody because they originated from brick films. Like I talked about, like I mentioned Memory Lane, and there's this video that Ace Ricardo made where he's like, Matt, were you playing Age of Empires with me? He's like, no, I've got to admit Memory Lane. And it's just like it's these goofy voices that he like beats him with like a hammer or something like that. But but like I've had those voices like the voices from that film they've just been in my head, and I can't like they make me laugh, and I can't really explain to anybody why that is, but it's just this little bite-sized part of like brick filming. I'm not gonna say drama, but just like lore, I guess. That's just like it was a thing and for a time, and now it's not. But like it left that memory.
But it's actually incredible to see that we've managed to. I mean, I don't know. It almost feels like it would be bad to just force people to say like you have to get these same old in jokes and you have to keep repeating them. But like just because we did a section in the iceberg video on like soldering your balls saves marriages. Like, since then I've seen people just referencing that film casually, like without us trying to force them to say you have to find this funny. Like we, all we did was just tell the story of it existing at the time.
I can't take this anymore.
Well,
I had no idea. Sorry, go ahead, Nate.
I was just gonna say, I mean, people will also do that because if they see the big kids making a joke. They're going to follow
Like,
what
you're
the
gonna wanna-
gatekeepers are saying.
Yeah, I mean, that's how a lot of the Brickfilms.com
Citizen of
jokes. Yeah, Citizen of the Year kind of bulldogged its way into being a Brickfilm meme.
Also, speaking of Brickfilm memes, we have
It's Blue Tack Bloke.
Blue Tack Bloke with us today.
We won't let that one die.
No, I feel like that's become sort of like an in joke.
That's a good example where Zach and Nathan will have no idea what we're talking about. Like, we think it's funny to just say, "Oh, look, it's Blue Tack Bloke," and that means nothing to them.
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah, see, you see the yeah, exactly.
I guess we should probably introduce people to if people who don't know the in joke. This is BP Productions. No, but so
Hello.
Bricks and Pieces.
Bricks and
Brickfilm
pieces.
Day.
Yeah, that's right.
We'll move from there.
Yeah, often just goes by BP. That's what people call me in the community.
Also, another judge for THAC 2023 as well.
That's true.
Wow.
Happy to be involved somewhat.
Also,
get to be-
I'm pretty
we get
sure
to judge all of you.
we probably called you BP as well in real life when we actually met.
That's
More
true.
than-
That's true. You and Bandy just mostly call me BP throughout the whole thing, which I'm fine with.
Yeah, like I'm still kind of walking the line between calling people I know in real life by their real names or by their online monikers.
I mean,
The trick to
know-
that is making your online name your real name.
That's-
you lucked out, especially evading being Lord of the Lego for life.
Oh yeah, I mean that was the best thing to come out of the schism. Was I was able to change my name, easy peasy,
Easily, yeah.
and no one could do a thing about it.
Mhm.
So I definitely needed to get rid of that. And
Yeah.
I'm definitely the type of person who it's like, I don't really need to feel the need to hide behind a username. Of course,
Mhm.
you know, some people like the not having their name online associated with it, but
Mhm.
luckily I haven't done anything too horrible. So if I get Googled, I just end up on the wiki. I think it's all Lego stuff.
Right.
Community stuff, yeah.
Not a bad way to be. Hey, I think if you Google my name, it's mostly just like film and Lego stuff. So that's not a bad way to be on the internet, I guess. I've debated dropping Mind Game in the past. I've debated just kind of going back to Zach. Yeah, but like, at this point, like Mind Game Studio is a little too ingratiated, so it has to stay
I mean, you gotta keep it in brick filming at least.
at the very least. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
This
yeah,
is
it's-
so iconic at this point. Yeah.
I practically feel like Penta is like a second actual name for me at this stage. You know, like when I met a bunch of brick filmers last year. I mean, that's what people called me in real life, and it didn't phase me whatsoever.
Mhm.
I kind of felt bad about calling you Penta, so I since then I've just been mostly trying to call you Sean because it just feels a bit weird. I don't know.
Yeah, but you've got the name where I always read it as scene because I'm American. So
I'm a
it takes me a
European.
second. I have to think about it. Like, no, wait, this is pronounced Sean. So then I just go with Penta 'cause it's easier that way. I know how to pronounce Penta.
And you got the little accent mark over the E too.
But that was a funny one. One time, Smeagol was asking me like, "Oh, you know, you have an accent on your name, so it must be pronounced differently to how Americans pronounce Sean, right? You know, because obviously in America, like people are called Sean, but there's no accent on it, like
It's
Sean
also
Willits,
spelled,
Filmy Guy.
generally spelled differently, yeah.
Yeah, well, it can be spelled differently, but Filmy Guy's name is spelled the same as mine, just with no accent. But
Yeah.
I was explaining that it's the accent that gives the awe sound. Like
Really?
in Irish,
In Irish, that
the A with the accent on it is what makes it Sean. Other than that, it would be like Shan
Really?
in Irish
Shan.
pronunciation.
Not seen.
No, not seen.
There's a whole thing, isn't there?
Say-
Like a
say,
really like old meme of like Sean Bean being seen Bean.
I've actually never heard that. That's funny.
And oh yeah, it was seen Bean and seen Canary.
Okay. Okay. Team Canary. Okay, that's just too. That's so dumb. I love it.
Actually,
Um,
BP, I must ask because I know all the spoilers. How's the Brickfilm Day Rewind video coming along?
Slowly so far. I've not had much chance to work on it because I'm working on animation at the moment, which I'm hoping to get done by the end of January. That's taken because at the moment the set's literally taking up my whole desk, which is why I'm just sort of right now just huddled in the very corner of my desk.
Is that
Even my
something in
desk
particular?
chair I've got like
ooh, look at that.
I'm just balancing this light on my desk chair, so I'm just crouched down underneath.
I remember
I
those
wasn't able
days.
to finish this shot.
I remember those days of having to like, I used to have a bunch of like old shoe boxes that I would have to like stack to put my desk lamp like to get it way up high back in like the old days when I was shooting in my bedroom, and I didn't have any like C stands or nothing. That's an old brick filmer's trick.
Maybe I should invest in some C stands.
It sounds
Yeah,
like
they're
the intro
costly, but
dialogue.
they're so worth it. They're expensive, but they're so worth it.
the dialogue that was recorded for the intro of the Brickfilm Day Rewind. It'll hold up very well when it comes out.
Yeah,
I don't know
I
what
wasn't
it is, so I guess I'll
expecting us
find out.
to finish it.
It'll work in context. Sounds like with the release.
Yeah, just for context.
The project you're working on.
No.
The project you're working on, is it a paid gig or is it a personal project?
It's a personal project, but it's for animation contest. It's not Lego. It might be controversial. It's Mega Constructs, formerly Mega Blocks.
That's it.
We,
Get out.
We've always, well, people will joke about it, but we've always, tried to say like, yeah, bricks is bricks. A brick film is a brick film.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
There have been some
You can go
great
to hell.
some of.
Oh, that's really funny to me. I suddenly just remembered that. Yeah, like, you Nathan used to have this reputation of the ultimate purist in the community.
yeah.
Every time somebody would use Mega Blocks or somebody would damage Lego for their film, there'd be a bunch of comments in the thread like, "Oh, don't let LOTL see this."
Which is weird because honestly, I don't feel like I was that puritanical about it. It was more of a thing where I was saying, I don't want to do that, but you can do what you want.
Yeah.
I guess that often does get misconstrued.
Yeah.
I often feel the same way where I try to adopt that mindset of like, if there's something that I'm not personally into, that doesn't mean that I am opposed to it when I see other people doing it.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. I mean, I think it's tied into the whole Nate Grubb persona, which is extremely exaggerated. But it's like, they're called brick films. They're not called Lego films. That's why we call them brick films, and I don't really care. And some of Mega Blocks, well, they're not Mega Blocks anymore. Mega Constructs or whatever their name is, still has elements like that.
Actually.
I was
like
like the
the brick-
they changed the name.
The
Yeah,
brick
yeah.
wall and stuff, they're rounded pieces. There's some really cool elements that I'm into making Lego movies when I do every 10 years because I like working with Lego. If I didn't have such hang up on working with Lego, I would totally be using the rounded bricks that they made like 20 years ago to look like castle wall pieces. Those are really neat. But I like working within the limitation of the Lego medium.
Yes,
but
at some point I decided that it's part of the medium to try to find as many solutions as possible that actually work within the Lego system. Like, if I can, I don't like to just blue tack Lego pieces together, or I wanted to find a real connection to actually make the builds. Unless it's tack, then I'll do whatever I want.
That said, if I get a commission work from Mega Constructs, I'm not going to blink twice. Money is money.
Exactly.
I mean,
But I was gonna say,
Yeah.
if there's one thing I give Mega, I didn't even know they changed the name. But if there's one thing I give Mega Constructs over Lego, it's the quality of the minifig skateboards, and that's a very, very specific thing to note. But Lego skateboards never really did it for me. But the
They're
Mega
way too
Blocks
big.
one, they're way too big. But the Mega Blocks ones actually have like the proper concave. They fit the feet. Like the minifig a lot better. They look more like a traditional.
I actually have one
And-
because I had when I was a kid, I think I was like 5. I had a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mega Constructs set, and it came with the skateboard thing. Actually, I don't know if you've even may have remembered this set, but it was this like quite small set, but it was like this sort of nuclear power station, and it had this like it had one of these like tubes that had actual like goo in it, like you know, and it's like does they get slimed, you know? And I remember once as a kid, I was I didn't know what it was, and I opened the tube, you know, the kind of container, and for some reason I thought this was like an actual toxic thing, so I threw it away.
They sent you an actual toxic material.
Yeah.
You know, I want to sort of just say, like, Nathan mentions how the Nate Grump persona is wildly exaggerated, which is true, and it's like it's true on your part as well. We all know that. If that wasn't true, then you would have been banned. But like, I almost feel like I've been writing the next history video script, and unavoidably I have to cover Blunty, and I was thinking to myself, like, how direct can I be about his old forum posts, right? And I was thinking, should I be very vague about it and just say, oh, you know, he was often getting angry at people and da 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 da. But then I was thinking, would that make people think that it's anything like Nathan now? Because Blunty would make Nathan look like Mr. Rogers or Bob Ross in comparison.
Yeah,
so I missed part of that conversation because my internet was a little crappy. I just heard something about me being.
Don't worry, we're comparing you favorably to Blunty. But so with that in mind, I was thinking, if I have to broach that topic, I'm gonna have to show some real heat on screen. Like, I can't dance around it. I have to show like what his posts actually looked like, you know, so people don't get the wrong idea about thinking that they mightn't. When you see them, you're like, whoa, that's crossing a line, yeah.
Yeah, I got chewed at by Blunty once on the forums. That was a memorable experience. Yeah, it was a post your own artwork thread, and I recreated this classic picture from Zelda Ocarina of Time. It was like Link holding a bow and arrow, like aimed at the camera. I mean, it was I recreated the picture. It wasn't like an original drawing. But I posted it, and I mentioned, I think at the time I was like 10 or 11, and like, you can debate the ethics of this if you want, but I think I mentioned that I submitted it to like my local art fair, and I got like a ribbon for it or something. And I was like, I mean, at the time I was like, I forget how old I mean, on the forum, that must have been at least like 14 or 15. But I remember when I posted that, Blunty just responded to me and just absolutely just leaned into me about like, oh, like you stole this image, you should be fucking ashamed. Yeah. You should be bloody ashamed of yourself. Like, you know, you ripped off this art. Now you won an award for it. It was like, whoa, like, okay, like, I mean, I get what you're saying, dude. But like,
that was always the thing. It was like, I'd say more often than not, there was a grain of truth in whatever he said. But it was just, oh my god, the way he would go about it. Oh my god, like, yeah. Because, I mean, yeah, I'd say that a lot of us have had a similar.
Yeah, it's like
where, you know, you just sort of copied something. You know, maybe you think, oh, it wasn't traced, so it's not. I didn't steal it, but like, you just directly referenced an original, like recreated it.
Right, but I mean, like,
that's just part of learning, like when you're that young. Yeah.
Yeah, I get it, but like, I get it, and I get where he's coming from, but I also just remember how much of like a piece of crap I felt like afterwards. Like I felt really. Like, I felt really bad.
Because what you were probably like, you know, a kid, weren't you?
Like, I mean, to the point where like it's now a defining interaction between me and Nate Burth. Like, whenever Blunty comes up, that's like the first story I have. The second one is, well, I'm not gonna gossip on him right now. So
I kind of feel like, wasn't it because there was the with Nate with Blunty, because like he still does like. Oh, sorry.
Brodell says, I think being a snarky butthead was almost seen as a cool attitude in those days of the internet.
It was. It was very much back in the days. Like, do you remember Maddox and like the best website in the world or whatever it was?
Well, like, well, I'm thinking of like something awful.
Yeah, and like, yeah, back in those days, I was like, like the greatest website in the world or whatever, like Maddox, like he would like post these like long written like angry rants about whatever was going on in the world, and like there was a persona of like the angry ranter. I remember blunt rants were a thing when Nate was doing like his like early YouTube days. Yeah, like they're like the angry person who like calls out things on the internet was definitely a persona back in like
that's
the
kind of
mid aughts.
That kind of feels like they're, continuing on from that, like angry video game nerd and like nostalgia critic kind of thing, where it's like
at least
not
those,
that.
At least those were characters.
Yeah, some people just didn't quite. It feels like some people were kind of personifying that to being like, this is like my actual identity. This is who I actually am on the internet, rather than like that. I feel like at least for like angry video game nerd like Doug Walker and that, it's like it's not like that is how they actually interact with people in general. Yeah.
Yeah, at least in the case of the nerd, that's like a distinct character that James Rolfe is playing. When it comes to like Nate, like you're getting him. Like this is just like his feelings on things, and so like it's a bit more revealing of the personality.
The funny thing about the Angry Video Game Nerd is that if you ever saw Mike Matei's video game streams, he was the Angry Video Game Nerd. Like,
oh, was he?
That's how he would act playing the games. Like, he would start screaming and swearing and punching his couch. And like seeing those, I was like, oh my god, he was just doing an impression of Mike Matei the whole time. Like,
oh wow,
it's remarkable.
And obviously you've got the I can't say the words, the S word, but Nintendo Cube guy as well.
Well, that was a whole era in and of itself. That everyone doing the rip off the Angry Video Game, they're like Game Dude. Oh my god, if you ever seen Game Dude videos, they're so funny.
I've avoided him. I do know the Irate Gamer, and I think he's still going.
He's still around. Oh, the Irate Gamer he has a YouTube channel for kids called Puppet Steve, and it's not like it wasn't exactly advertised as like, oh yeah, this is totally the same guy behind the Irate Gamer, but it just became known. Like people just recognized his voice and like it's by now it might have even had crossovers with like I think Mike Matei and James Rolfe might have even done voices on it, like because they actually like made up at some point.
I was gonna say
I don't know if you remember the Irate Gamer, like when YouTube was new, the drama was, oh, the AVGN is like the original grassroots one, but YouTube keep promoting the Irate Gamer on the front page. They keep featuring the Irate Gamer, who's the ripoff, and that was like the original controversy with the Irate Gamer, as far as I remember.
Y'all, you have got to stop talking about
and
2012.
Ask BP something.
There was a
y'all
point.
Have got to stop living in the past.
Okay. What I mean is like we're waxing philosophical about like the rise and fall of Nate Burr, I guess.
Why? Who cares? This is like 20 years ago.
In that case, we really ought to change the topic.
Move on. Holy crap!
It came up and we were
just like the just like in 2018, it's the hashtag change the channel moment. Don't actually change the channel though. But no.
Actually, what's
anyway? Let's
things going with tech on the Brickfilms Day side of things. Like, I almost feel like the Brickfilms Day admins are like in the sort of transitional period, or a lot of them are like, entering real life. Is there much like in the way of brick filming activity do you know about?
In terms of Brickfilm Day, in terms of just the admins.
More in terms of is anyone entering tech or working on entry at the moment?
I'm not. I don't know too many people that are definitely entering tech. I just did help Porg Studios out with the trailer recreation. I think he's entering, but as far as I know, James and Jared and John aren't entering there.
Yeah,
or sort of.
You're entering the phase of appearing on camera in videos, and more so than making brick films.
Yeah, they're all sort of in this period of their lives where they've just left school or they're just starting uni, that sort of phase where.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to speak too much for them, but
It's always an interesting transitional phase going from like living at home to college and sort of what like your like like your own personal future in brick filming could kind of
Yeah, of course,
where
that whole transition, that kicks off a lot of brick filmers.
it does. Yeah, it almost got me for a very long time. 'Cause I remember in that period I didn't make anything significant for like like it's what felt like the 4 years that I was away.
That's why I haven't entered the fact for the past few years. I've literally just finished uni.
Right.
January was literally when I had like several assignments due all at once. It was.
That sounds familiar. Yeah.
Still managed to keep up with Brawl though every summer. I'm glad I gave me an opportunity to at least make something.
Very nice how people can find the time to enter one or the other. For a lot of people, it is tech that is. Once they're older, it's easier to just take one weekend and do tech.
Yeah. I'm hoping I might be able to do it again next year, or maybe I'll have the energy to participate in one of the summer contests this year. Like I'm.
What probably would be a good process for you if you entered Brawl and approached it more like a tech entry, but it's just a bit better made because you have more than one day.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I really ought to, because I remember the one time I actually did manage to get a Brawl film done was Deja Vu, and it was surprisingly one of like the smoothest personal brick film productions I've ever had for being on a deadline. I mean, it was one of those things where like I should be more disciplined and I should know better by now, but like I came into that project, I had like a set like goals, I like knew what I wanted to do every day, like I had a plan, and I just every day just I got where I needed to go, and it was a pretty smooth all the way until getting the film done within a couple of hours before the deadline. And I just remember like thinking to myself, wow, I've never like had a brick film go by this smoothly on a deadline before. So I wonder what I did differently there.
What went right?
Precisely.
Yeah, of course. I do love having the Brick Film Day server because, like, we still try to maintain this sort of air of like semi-seriousness in the Bricks in Motion server. But the Brick Film Day server is just like a shit post, and it is a lot of fun to you can just drop nonsense. And
in the meme channel especially.
There is literally like every channel is a meme channel. That's like.
I mean, I guess
even news.
Maybe it's sort of. It can be a shock for people when people have been in other servers like that, and then they arrive in the Bricks in Motion server and they're just posting like random garbage in general, and we're like, stop posting that random garbage in general.
We have a channel for that.
Yeah, people could afford to not post so much random.
But it is when you know where to go,
I'm a little with
nice
it, Nathan. Though.
Yeah.
I mean,
we're
I
pretty
think
relaxed with the. Yeah. I'll go.
Yeah.
And of course, I mean, it was possibly influential to us when like there was all what went down with the logo, not last year but the year before.
It was strange.
Are we talking the Pride Month logo?
Yeah.
Because initially we updated the logo just for Pride. It was. I can't remember when it was. It might have been 2019 or 2020. We did it for June, and then we had no reason to really change it since until October when we did the Halloween one. And throughout the whole time, like barely anyone was homophobic or any comments like that. It's just
fucking last
a
year.
few people making fun jokes and stuff, but as like a meme. And then
in 2021, it was insane. It was like,
it was just after
the server.
It's just after Brickfilm Day, so we had like 100 new people in the server, and then whatever reason when we changed it again for next year even, so many people. I don't know why now.
Oh yeah, you mean you did one before the one that went crazy? That was fine the first time.
Yeah, we did one before the year before things went crazy, and there's nothing wrong, nothing
bad happened.
Yeah, then suddenly the next year. just
Yeah, because I mean, you know, like that's sort of has been a thing now for many years, as far as like most organizations having like Pride logos in June. But I always figured like in my mind, it's like, well, we don't need to sort of talk about like identity in brick filming. It didn't seem to be a thing, but then my perspective changed when I saw a lot more things go down. Like, well, yeah, that the one that went crazy in Brick Film Day, and then obviously some other stuff happened where I was like, oh, it is actually relevant,
yeah.
It actually is worth making a statement and saying, yeah, like people are actually supposed to be welcome here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and also
We've
it's going to
literally
be
just kept.
yeah. So
I was just saying that's literally why we've just kept it since that Pride month or whatever, just to make just as a statement, like
yeah,
not trying to make a political statement. I think we just want to make it clear, like everyone's welcome here, and
but you
like,
see,
we're not gonna
that's
stand for any...
what a lot of people get hung up on is this idea of like, oh, you're trying to say that it's supposed to be everyone's welcome, but you're just representing one thing. But it's like it's all based on historical context of what has been pushed back against in the past. You don't and once you learn a lot of the history and the reasons people came up with to start things like this, then suddenly you're like, oh, I get it now. But I kind of suspect that obviously I don't know because I wasn't involved in decision making for other communities, but it wouldn't surprise me if the fact that last year, like, it was the first year where it was literally widespread across every major brick film Discord. It wouldn't surprise me if they all had a similar experience of like, oh, something has shown us that like this is a relevant thing to do in this space. Almost like you get a shock and it's like, oh, this actually is relevant, or else it has.
Yeah.
I think that like
So
it's
are
a,
we going to talk about THAC on this stack stream? We're going to talk about THAC on this stack stream, or what?
What are you gonna say?
We should resolve to discuss THAC a little more.
Or you
did there.
Yeah.
That's a good one,
yeah. So resolve. What are we hoping? What are we expecting from this one?
I expect nothing, and then I'll be pleased if I see something.
I think that I don't think it was. I think Sean, I think it was your idea to come up with that. But I think that like with Resolve, I think it was a nice kind of theme that it was not like immediately obvious what it was, what it was going to be. Like you don't immediately think, oh yeah, you're going to get this kind of these kind of entries. And I like that it's
or two. Yeah. That there were some suggestions that were like words that were similar, or like that might have fit a single definition of resolve. But one suggestion was recovery, and when I heard that, I was like, I can imagine what half of the entries will look like if the theme is recovery. Yeah. But then I thought recovery could fit under the umbrella of resolve. But if you just say resolve, I'm not immediately struck with this image of what half the films are going to be. And that was that was the vibe I was hoping to get out of a theme.
I was gonna say a couple of themes ago. I remember most of the entries were about like divorce. I'm like, are brickfilmers okay?
No, they are absolutely not. Have you seen brickfilmers?
Hack can have a tendency to like. Sometimes people like, they make these entries for TAC where you're like, dude, are you okay? Because like they don't have any time to think about it. They just like, go from something.
First thing that comes in your head.
Like
just like, oh, that's what you.
Gets reflected, and you're like, that's a bit concerning because it's just like blasted out in 24 hours. It's like so raw.
I don't really want to I don't want to name names, but I feel like there are some entries I can think of that are like I kind of think like
do it.
Yeah, you're like, dude, what's going on?
I'm not
really
convinced by
I
the
don't actually
theme,
have any,
but I'm
in
curious to
particular
see
in
what
mind.
people do.
It's just you can just remember that it's something that has been observed in the past.
I wonder themes like, because I feel like in the past when we have like these kind of open-ended themes, there are varying degrees of success and relative failure when it comes to interpreting. I think interpreting a theme. I think sometimes people can be a little literal, which is why I think you get so many like films with the theme in the title,
Theme drop.
as opposed
Oh yeah.
as
I was
opposed
guilty
to
of that
like.
for my first like.
Well, I mean, I've done it. I've done it in the past too, but.
Oh yeah, I think everybody's done a theme drop or two.
Right, but
Something
it's like
everyone has to
I
learn,
think-
like, oh, it's been done.
Mhm.
Although
I think, gotta
sometimes
be-
it can be just so perfectly done that it still actually comes across funny.
Mhm.
Like last year,
Gotta be
James's
honest,
one,
I think
Perspective.
I think the themes
was a good one.
I think the themes have
Nathan.
been trying to be too clever for a while. I think it could afford to
Here.
be a little more straightforward and blatant. Honestly.
In what way do you think it needs to just be more like less like more direct, like as far as like the purpose of the theme, or like something that's like less like
Yeah,
obtuse to interpret?
I'm not convinced. I mean, I have nothing to do with this contest, so ignore what I have to say. But I'm not convinced Resolve's going to. I'll be happy to see Resolve end up with good films, but
Mhm.
we always seem to flip flop from between very vague, you interpret 7 different ways one word themes, and then a short phrase. And I always
Yeah.
prefer the short phrase themes.
Oh, that's funny because I always
Um,
prefer the one-word themes, but it could be just that it's like maybe it's just based on whatever happened last year. Like, oh well, last year it went like this, so we have to gear it towards something else. But first of all, I just want to say, for some reason, I wasn't hearing your Discord microphone audio anymore, so I'm sorry if I was talking over you a lot. I don't know if I was like, but
No worries.
Mhm.
My internet's kind of not working right now.
okay, right.
That's not your
I
fault.
had to leave and rejoin, and then suddenly I could hear you again.
Right on.
I
In
Yeah.
picking
trying
the
to
theme, I was saying that it's the sort of theme where basically every film in existence you could say fits Resolve, because everything, a film is going to end or there's going to be a character arc. But I kind of figured that, I hope that the really good ones will pull ahead with some strong or interesting interpretation.
There's usually at least a couple that like do it fairly creatively.
And of course,
But
I like that the word has multiple literal different definitions.
right, hopefully people can take that to heart. I think I'm kind of with Nathan on like the sentence or like the log line style theme. And I remember I guess we haven't really done like a whole lot of them in the past, but I feel like it gives a better sense of direct. I mean, I guess it's always a tricky line to direct your contest goers without like without really limiting what they can do. But
The one that I always think of and I always reference when there's this discussion between one word themes or multiple word themes, I just always remember the one that was a grand unveiling. And like every single entry had a guy on a stage with a blanket over an object, and then he pulls the blanket off and is like, "Whoa, look at this wacky object under the blanket."
yeah.
It just
Yeah,
directed
that's-
everyone in a direction like that was just it was so samey.
Yeah, that's you run the risk of that too.
I mean, obviously that's not going to be the case for every multiple word theme, but I feel like it's just you might fall into that a bit easier.
I just prefer seeing films that are clearly based upon one theme that they do something different with, because something like Resolve. Well, I'm trying to remember old previous themes, but they just left my memory. When it's just something like, say, I'm just gonna go with Resolve because that's the only one in my mind. That is so wide open that we could have 5 different films from the same fact contest, and there's nothing that would make me realize it from the same contest. Where I feel like there was a good stretch of time where I could be like, oh yes, that film that was from fact 10 or whatever. I could tell which film that was from. Which
or to go a little,
from.
or to go a little further back in time, things like the A Peculiar Event, High Adventure Theater, like Fame, Infamy, Glory, like the things where like
Yes,
the concept
exactly.
of the theme was a little more spelled out, but not like the direction it needs to go in. Yeah, like A Peculiar Event, I think, is a great idea for a contest.
Yeah,
because
that
it's
one,
so it's so
I feel like
open to
that's
so many
similar
different
to-
ideas.
Similar to what I was saying, where practically every brick film could fit the theme A Peculiar Event. Practically every brick film ever made, but the best ones are going to use it well.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, agreed. Or like High Adventure Theater, like you expect every movie to be like a Johnny Thunder or something, but then you get like Rachel Dew's Imagine That, and you get this really creative, clever story of like a little kid playing in the backyard.
And a lot of other that we love.
Okay.
I don't envy coming up with themes. I ran fact for like 4 years, and it's a pain coming up with themes.
Yeah, no, I mean,
absolutely. You know that you're destined that like every time as soon as you announce the theme, immediately people are going to say, I don't know what it means. What does it mean? This is a bad theme. I can't get any ideas. You're like, oh, every time.
Yeah.
Well, that's on them.
Will.
I'm not going to hold their hand.
I think that's also the younger kids tend to, and the less. I'm going to say this as nicely as I can, but the less like media literate or less like. Where like metaphor and stuff like that isn't like quite the first thing that comes to mind rather. Yeah. Maybe I'm generalizing. I don't know, but I do think people
and everyone, but obviously we have noticed that
people can be a little literalist with theme interpretations.
I think that's just
you can get more direction when it has more words, when it has a phrase and. Obviously, you'll get things where it's like the dude on the stage and everyone does the same thing.
Yeah.
But the ones that stand out, that is not just the dude on the stage revealing something, makes them stand out even more. Where I'm just a little worried that Resolve is going to be.
I think we
just like, the plot resolved itself. There we go. That's the film.
I know that basically anyone could just say, "Oh well, the plot resolves." So yeah, but I just hope that you'll get some good ones. But as I said, it could be the case that next year we'll say, well, last year's was too open, so this year we'll do a more concrete one.
Well,
I think
that's what happens. I think it always rubber bands. It always goes back and forth every other year. We do one year and we're like, that didn't work so well. Let's do the other thing, and then we rubber band the other way, and then we rubber band back. Yeah.
I think they're like whatever. I mean, I don't want to kind of just say like, oh, it doesn't matter what theme it is, but I do feel like any kind of theme, you're gonna get like, and it doesn't matter if it is like like Grand Unveiling or whatever it is. I feel like there's just going to be people who are going to take the literal interpretation. There's going to be people who are going to do something that you never thought of, with that theme. So it's, and they're the ones that are going to be doing really well.
People know that the good approach is to think to yourself, what's the very first idea that immediately entered my mind when I heard that theme? Okay, I'm not going to use that.
Yeah.
Like sometimes.
See, I disagree. I think the first idea is the best idea most of the time.
I more mean the ones that really direct you into an obvious interpretation. Like, let's say Grand Unveiling. If the first thing that hits your mind with the Grand Unveiling is guy on stage unveils something, then you know that half of the entrants are going to be exactly the same.
Right, so right. Like on that,
using a different way.
Right.
I also, by the way, sorry, I want to kind of like keep going, but we've got a next guest sort of like slot is just kind of gone through now, and we got.
Quickly, I want to ask PP another thing because again, we talk about all of our super insidery stuff, but what is the deal with Brickfilm Day this year? Is it because again, sort of relating to like asking like, oh, are the Brickfilm Day admins still like doing a lot of stuff? Like, is it planned for Brickfilm Day to occur in the same manner with as much where you have to do as much work to make it happen?
We haven't started that conversation yet.
Okay.
But I'm pretty confident we will do a Brickfilm Day this year. The hard thing is just getting James online at a
Just,
time where you can speak.
I particularly want to know because we have an idea in mind for what we would like to be a Brickfilm Day video made by Bricks in Motion, on the Bricks in Motion YouTube channel. So
Yeah,
we very much want to release that as our Brickfilm Day video. So we're hoping, Brickfilm Day is still gonna happen, right?
yeah. You have mentioned this to me, yeah. 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 We'll get to it over the next couple of weeks. It's just trying to organise the rewind.
It'll happen in some form at least.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so we got our next guest, Koi Pine.
Hi, hello.
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 Hey.
How are you?
Are you working on a back entry?
Oh yeah, actually, I'm doing a back entry. I started late last minute.
Nice.
Nice.
How are you?
What's
I'm
it
doing
about?
what-
I'm kidding. Don't tell us.
Okay. I know, what is it? I got 10 to the voice in anyway. That's why I was like a little bit
Well,
delayed.
I said I'd do it before I got on the stream, but then I just sort of lost track of the time, and then suddenly the stream is starting, and I was like, oh no, the stream's starting. So I haven't recorded that. I might have to take a quick break from the stream to record that before it's too late. I think I did the same last year. Actually, I just muted my mic and quickly recorded something for Star Wars Studio.
Yeah.
Well,
I got a couple of hours before I got to start getting ready for work. I wonder if I might just throw my hat into the ring for some of these fact films and see if I can. Well, maybe if I'm feeling up to doing a little bit of voice acting.
So are you animating yet, or still doing set design and scripting?
I mean, I'm doing a bit of animating.
Good.
Nice.
Yeah, but
I've opened
By
script
this-
in half an hour, then just did some quick set designs. I don't have full on regular blue. I have very light blue, so then I have to mix in the background.
Do you have a limited amount of Lego with you? You're saying?
Yeah, specifically with blue. So very lucky that I got the blue mod this year.
Yeah. Right on. Yeah.
I
So-
just have a lot of white.
Yeah. So how many hours into? We're coming up on the 10-hour mark. But by this point, what do we think people should be on right now?
I feel like I'd be animating by now. I'd be if I wasn't animating by now, I'd be thinking, oh no, this is bad.
Yeah.
I'd
If you're
say-
not animating by. I was gonna say if you're not animating within the first few hours, I think you are in a bit of a danger zone.
I remember one time, I think it was TAC 12 in 2015, Sloth Paladin made an entry, but it was late. And then he released a documentary afterwards, and he's like, okay, it's hour 13, and I'm starting the animation. And I was like, okay, that explains it.
Or it's like me with the spin when you'd come into my live stream and I'm still working on the same shot 3 hours later. It's like, this is how that's gonna go.
It's hour 5. I wake up.
That was the Edbound method, yeah.
I don't think there's really a schedule to. I think until the very end, which the only thing I hold to is if you're not editing by hour 20, you've already lost.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
People underestimate. Yeah, people underestimate, myself included, how long editing is going to take, and I think because brick filming, you tend to shoot for the edit. You kind of take for granted, just gonna drop these all into the timeline and put some audio over, it'd be fine. No, there's a lot more to it than just that.
Well,
Sound
yeah,
effects are
sound
brutal.
effects,
If you
music,
leave,
and
all the
everything.
sound effects to the end, it's the worst.
I think 4 in the morning, Christmas Eve, trying to get my video done.
Yes.
Not that fun.
I love sound design. Doing sound design in the final hour before I got, or the final 2 hours before I got to upload is a nightmare. It's a nightmare.
Yeah, it pains me when I have to rush sound design right at the very end because
you're
sound
a
design's
sound
what
designer.
Yeah, that's what I specialize in at film school.
This is gonna.
I hate look.
Right on.
This is gonna sound.
I like it.
This is gonna sound bad as the host of DAC, but I feel like I've never really been that good at planning my time out with Zach. This is why I host it, not take part. But
I was going to say the same thing. It's like I'm really happy to judge Thack, which I've done a bunch of times, because like, oh great, I don't have to make an entry, and I can still feel like I'm involved because making a Thack entry is so brutal, and I'm so bad at it.
But I feel like I've kind of come up with a quite comfortable kind of sort of time frame when it comes to Brawl, where like I think within like the first day is really just coming up with the concept. Day 2 is like building the sets and then maybe animating, and then you've got like the next like 4 days of animation, and then you've got the last 24 hours to do the editing and that kind of stuff. That seems like a nice kind of sort of schedule.
Nice flow.
With Brawl, even if I haven't started shooting on day 1, I'm like, it's just day 1.
Exactly.
Yeah. With Thack,
see,
oh God, it's 2 hours in and I haven't started shooting.
I'm a Thack purist. I'm all Thack all the way. Brawl, I still think is the pale imitator. I like the pressure of the 24 hours.
I'm a good mix of both. I like both of them.
Well, you see, Nathan's been around since the time period that Brawl emerged out of. At which point in time there were like so many attempts at fake Thacks. There was like 2 days. Yeah. Well, no.
Yeah.
At the time it was the attempt was called 2D Stack. I think it actually ran
been
twice.
really hard. Yeah.
But
It's been really hard for me to shake the feeling that Brawl is still pale imitator. I know Brawl's coming to its own, and it has its place. But yeah, you're totally right. Yeah,
Brawl wouldn't exist without Thack. Yeah.
Brawl is now an institution like Thack, so anyone who just joins and they see Thack is an institution and Brawl is an institution, that's cool, But yeah, so that's why I want to add the context of like we actually remember when, every other month there'd be a kid who'd come along and say, "Hey guys, I just came up with a fantastic idea for a contest." Oh hack!
Yep. Yeah.
I'll pay you in subscribers and a shout out on my channel.
Like
I can give you like 5 minutes of attention.
Yeah, we've got.
The big issue I have with Brawl is you can get lulled into a sense of you're fine. And you can really waste time. Thack, you can never get lulled into that.
It's true. Yeah. Thack is a sprint. It's a dead sprint.
I'm awful for that in Brawl. Like I was talking about saying, "Oh, it's just day 1." I mean, I have a terrible habit of saying, "Oh, it's just day 2." "Oh, it's just day 3."
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I guess it is easier.
It's how it always begins. Like the stages of grief.
Also,
stages of Brawl.
as I've gotten older, I think Brawl is heavily biased against people who have lives. Where with Thack, you can still do Thack as an adult. You just have to hate yourself for a couple days.
Brawl is a young man's contest. It's not for like grown adults with regular daytime jobs, unfortunately. But like there's still a place for Brawl, but like it's much harder to do when the older you get.
I am running into a bit of a technical issue right now because for some reason my Mac everything's working fine, but it's not like I'm not able to like select anything. So right now I've got like an OBS. I've got like my webcam image, which is supposed to be hovering over my
on the screen,
face.
Two, yeah.
So it's like 2 of me, and there's like one of me's like half over Chris W. So. Yeah.
Can you just drag one of yourself?
I can't. It literally won't let me do it. Like, it seems like the only option I've got is like the chat, and it's like not letting me change anything on my computer. So I'm just like stuck.
Chris, if you want to be seen on the stream, you're gonna have to just occupy this side of the frame.
You guys hear me by the way?
Actually, no. Your microphone's very quiet.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. Give me 1 second.
I can hear you there.
To be fair, everyone else is very loud right now. So
There we go. Is this better?
Yeah.
No, I heard Nathan, you were talking smack about Brawl, and I was like, I'm making an entrance on that one. Yeah.
I totally not host Brawl one year.
Although I feel like
I won.
He did win Brawl one.
I won Thack one of the years that you hosted. So.
Oh, damn.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's all even.
Granted, I was 1/3 of an entry, so you know.
Mm-hmm.
But
Lately,
gonna cause the next
I see,
split.
yeah, I see like brawls as like as like my opportunity to like make the random Ben and Andy film once in a while. Yeah, I still have ideas for the two of them, and I never get around to actually writing them onto paper.
Yeah.
That's something like most people's ideas as well.
Yeah.
It's hard writing, but it's great making ideas for it.
Writing is hard. That's true.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Sometimes I have like a single concept in mind, and I just think to myself, if I could work this single concept into a full film script, a full idea, then I'd really have something on my hands. But until then, it's just a singular idea, and it's just never going to go anywhere.
Yeah,
I know.
for me, it starts out with it. For me, whenever I've got a good idea I really want to make, it starts out really simple, short, and then I keep building on it and building on it until it's like going to be a proper project I've got to spend a lot of time on, and I just push it aside, come back to it later. Just never gets done.
Oh god, that's suddenly just reminded me of my Brawl 2021 entry, which I still haven't finished, which was like, I made just the opening scene of a Benny and Lee film, and I was like, I can expand this into a full film later. I think I've done one shot since. 2 shots maybe, 2 additional shots.
Dude, let it go. It's dead.
It's gonna happen. I have to make it happen because I have to leapfrog over a few people on the longest running series list, because some people are beating me now because I haven't done Benny and Lee in 2 years, and other people are continuing to release films, and I'm like, no, I'm losing my spot.
Dude, I killed a whole half of Appetite Lost because I wasn't feeling it. It's fine to let things die.
I hold out hope that you'll find some way to just resolve that project.
No, the ending, the entire second half of the story doesn't work anymore. It just simply doesn't work at all. It was
find a way.
Effectively boiled down to a certain parody of genre of film and TV that isn't popular anymore. So
you're talking about Paradise Lost?
Appetite Lost.
Appetite.
Appetite. I think Paradise Lost. Or Paradise, yeah.
Yeah.
You did have that one really cool shot. It was a perspective shot of a car driving driving down a hill and then coming up in the foreground in like full scale. From Appetite Lost.
I have an entire first half of a film, but it's I don't have a resolution, so I'm just gonna sit there. Because there's no
really
point in releasing.
To think that, remember when Coffee and Carnage came out in the same year that like you were working on that, and like whoa, 9 years in development, that's the longest ever.
Yeah.
Like it's so crazy for a Brickfilm to be hanging around for 9 years, and now it's sort of like, oh, yeah, Appetite Lost 2014.
But the thing is, it doesn't. I don't know. You guys are like all lamenting, and you're like, oh no, and this is that. And I don't know. It doesn't bother me that it can. Yeah, I just it's probably dead.
Well, I mean,
it's okay to let. Yeah, go ahead.
You probably learned a lot by making what you made that you could then use in future projects. So you probably got a lot of satisfaction out of what you did get done. So it might be it's sort of a different perspective for us because we haven't actually seen a film, so we haven't exactly got what we wanted out of a project yet.
Yeah, you're not wrong. A lot of what I learned from lighting the scene for Appetite Lost got reworked into the cleaners, but I think that's beside my point. My point is it's okay to accept to let a project die. To
kill your learn how to kill your darlings. It's a tough lesson, or it's a tough lesson to learn, but an important one. And it's one I had to learn with my Skyfall clip.
Oh,
if you all remember that.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I told myself for so many years I was going to finish that, and it was a monkey on my back that I didn't kick until I finally just said, you know what, screw it. Like I got the one shot that I actually wanted to do, and like the rest of it, like I'm just not feeling it. Like
I think with me the thing about my unfinished Benny and Lee film is that like I know that I could just crank it out in like a week because it's so easy. Like I still make those in the old way, so it's all very basic. I do that intentionally, but I'm not particularly interested in just making stuff in the old way anymore. Like I want to make a project that will wow people and is cooler. So even if I could just whip it up in a week, I just haven't done that yet because I just haven't aired enough yet. But I still think it'll happen.
I mean, my big thing is, to be honest, I mean, pretty much a very different person. So I'm not interested in looking back at something that was made when I kind of existed as a different person. And so that's fine for me to let it go
Makes sense.
away.
That makes sense.
I've said this before on the podcast, but that was something I eventually came to that sort of conclusion in regards to people who delete their brick films off of YouTube, and they, you know, where we'd always be like, oh no, don't delete your brick films. But I kind of figured like there's probably a lot of people for whom having any videos that are that old up, yeah, like they're just weirded out by the fact that they were a completely different person when they made them, and it was just a completely different point in their life, and it probably just represents more to them. For them to be available, that it just weirds them out, and it's for a long time I guess I didn't ever think of that, but then suddenly I realized like, oh yeah, that's probably the case.
Yeah, I think for me, that realization was Joni Phillips, hearing her reasons for why it's like, oh, I don't want these up. I think that was the thing for me to be like, oh yeah, no, sometimes there are very good reasons for why, and sometimes they don't even need good reasons. It's just up to the person.
I'm pretty sure she doesn't mind that I have them on the wiki unlisted.
No, I think they're, well, hers wasn't completely off and like gone forever, but just, you know, not public is in terms of like anyone can go and freely search them unless they're, you know, like they know where to look. But
one thing I will say about that is, sorry, I know I talk way too much, but there was one film of hers that I specifically remember that there was a certain like caption on it that she had covered with an annotation when annotations existed, and this is before they'd even been taken down, because, you know, it was like, you know, ancient type of humor. So I almost never changed things I re-upload to put on the wiki, but because she had covered that with an annotation in the like original era, I just blurred that one caption just to keep that wish, you know.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think there's
humor.
Exactly.
A slight there's a few. I would say there's a few differences though. Like obviously people have the right to want to remove stuff they don't like anymore. I mean, I purged all my old Minecraft videos from my channel, but I do think there is something to be said to accepting what was the past and living with it. Obviously, this isn't applicable to everyone's situation, but at least for me, I am totally fine. Like, you know, because honestly, I'm very not. I'm not happy with some of the brick films and how they look and how they are honestly embarrassing. But I'm just going to suck it up and deal with it. But I can also be totally fine with completely moving on. You know, and not. I feel like sometimes there's a danger of living in the past a bit with the nostalgia, and I've definitely at fault with that sometimes too. But it's just like, I mean, you know, there's a point where I'm like, I don't really need to wax poetic about this brick film again. This brick film.
That's totally fair.
We sort of relentlessly make fun of Beast.
And now we move on to the section of the we move on to the segment of the show.
He's talking about Driven and not like Woot. That's what we're referring to.
Right.
Obviously.
I do like Woot as a pure time capsule though. Like, yep, that was memes in 2006. That's perfect. But I have to say, like, you know, if people do ask me to not list something on the wiki, I always accept what people want for their own, you know, their own like real names or their own films.
That's fine. I can accept that logically, as that's obviously the right thing to do if someone requests that. I think it's kind of, and I'm the coward's way out, but I am not that person, so I can't speak for them. But I've
gotten almost no requests.
So
Go ahead, Nathan. Sorry.
No, that was not me.
No, Nathan, what you were saying is you want every little thing preserved on the wiki. That's what you're saying, right?
Every single brick film.
What I'm saying is,
they're always on my hard drive. You know, I'm never gonna.
Yeah,
leave
what I'm
anything that I
saying
have
is-
locally.
You need to. There's some power in living with what you were, but also being able to accept to move on. You know.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Sorry, Zach. What were you gonna say, Zach? Sorry.
I was just gonna say, there's a couple of animators who have like taken down a lot of their work and requested their names be like not associated with it, and one in particular, I don't fully understand. I mean, I don't understand to the point where like maybe I don't know where they are in their life, but like one of them was a really talented brick filmer, and I was just really sad to like see them separate themselves from yeah. And I don't want to name a particular name because they specifically wanted.
I already said it. I'm afraid.
I didn't hear what you said. Who you said?
I said Night Owl.
Well, don't say it. Well, don't say it again.
It's just like that. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
I'm obsessed with guessing what people are thinking before they say it. In case you haven't.
So who all here is now? I think I'm probably gonna have to drop out, unfortunately, of Zach. So who all? So Corey and BP, are you guys entering or no?
I'm a judge, so.
Oh yeah.
I decided to do
it's up to Corey.
2 hours ago. I decided to do it 2 hours
I'm-
ago. I remember what was it? I was like downstairs. I was watching like the new Puss in Boots movie. It was really good.
I heard
And
it's
got,
pretty good.
Like, yeah, I kept getting like was a notification from like the Discord and all this from like, like I'm setting it up, and then the actual Bricks Emotions one. And I was looking at everything, and I was realizing like, I'm gonna be like one of the hosts, like guests on this today, and I haven't even done a THAC entry yet, so I should probably get that out of the way, so I can at least say I've done a THAC entry. So then I think, yeah, I did. I think what was it? I wrote a script in half an hour, and I've been animating for the past hour now. So I say I should get it done. But if I'm an hour too late, then I don't mind. I'll still upload it anyway. Like
There
even if
you
I
go.
can't make it.
If you really want like voice acting from me like urgently, just message me and I'll just dip out.
Oh no, I don't mind waiting after the show because like I could like do yours like a little bit later on.
Okay.
I'm a patient man.
Yeah. I guess. Well, I was just thinking that I spoke with Tony Mines shortly before he died, and just about like stuff and preserving stuff and what to do with it going forward, and like he wasn't like asking me to not list anything, but I was sort of like would you prefer if I didn't have the 90s ones publicly available? And he was like, yeah, I think if the question is would I prefer it, I would prefer if the links weren't there. Because, like, obviously they're made in the 90s, so they have, like, just all the sorts of language and jokes that people used to make a long time ago without thinking much of it. And, like, he would totally be the type to have thought better of all that stuff. It wasn't, like, that spicy, but it's just, so casual back then. But,
a person naturally grows, from who they were.
Funny thing was, the reason I established contact with him in the first place was there was a single one of his 90s films that was entirely missing. So I was like, oh, you still have this missing film? And he was like, no one will ever see that one. That is the worst thing ever made. I destroyed the VHS tape that it was on. Like, he knew he was going to die. He's like, well, I got to destroy this tape so nobody can ever see this horrendous film I made.
I definitely am saying this from a privileged position because I haven't made anything that I super am ashamed of. But I don't know, I just feel like it's better to be willing to live with what you did, even if it was not good.
The funny thing was,
but again, I
said something like, I think we can all relate to having those films we made when we were teenagers that have all those like bad jokes in them. And he said like, no, it's not. There was nothing like racist or whatever in it. It was just like a single joke repeated over and over again for the entirety of the film, and it was
just super cringe.
Bad. He just hated it.
It's just super cringe and it's not
he was
funny.
mortified that I even knew it existed. He was like, "How did you learn about the existence of that film?"
He went full George Lucas holiday special on that one.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, you should have just told him to make a special edition. There you go.
I mean, that's kind of
Go ahead.
Well, that's kind of, I think, where my attitude kind of comes from, is I really object to the treatment of the Star Wars original trilogy when it comes to that.
Oh yeah, you know,
Um,
I despise the special editions. You know, I've got basically every film worth buying on Blu-ray, but I still don't have Star Wars because they haven't put out the theatrical versions.
How is
Yeah,
it?
so
There's no despecialized version. How is this possible? It's been 40 years.
well, I mean,
Better.
that's why I just
50.
think you need to live. I appreciate what Spielberg did, which is when he did E.T. and he had the chance to rework it, and then he realized he made a mistake by reworking it. And it's like you just have to accept that what you produced was what you produced and learn from it. Yeah, sure. And you know, if you need to disavow it because of a certain thing, that's fine too. But don't
every film ever
pretend
made,
it like.
Don't spend your whole life tinkering with it because you're just gonna.
Yeah.
Unless you're Ridley Scott producing Blade Runner, you're probably just gonna make it worse.
I kind of feel like
That's
so
not what I'm really saying.
Every film is informed by the year in which it was made. Like people don't suddenly not know when it was made. Like.
And like
context and stuff.
And like none of the changes made to the special editions were necessary. They were purely cosmetic and just like ego driven, I want to say.
All right, I regret bringing up Star Wars. Because that wasn't quite my point.
It breaks
my
immersion
main point
when you
was...
recognize that it's a 97 effect, not couldn't be made in 77. But
yeah, should not have brought up Star Wars.
Okay, I'll bring it back to. I had something else to say about Tony Mines. Tony Mines is a very interesting character because I was always very intimidated trying to contact him because he always projected this very intense like image. You know, all of his written blogs and websites and all, like it was so intensely written. Like the old legendary FAQ from their website was basically just like, go away, stop asking us questions. Like, no, we won't. Just shut up and go away. But when I asked him about that one missing film, and he had such a gigantic reaction to me asking that, I was like, oh no, I've blown it. Like, this is terrible. But as soon as he was finished talking about that film, he just said, okay, now if there's anything else you want to ask me, feel free. And then it was just like it hadn't happened. Then it was like, okay, so you know, I asked about a bunch of other stuff, and he was more than happy to talk about the other stuff. And then I was like, oh, so do you want to come on the podcast? And he's like, yeah, okay, I'll come on the podcast.
I feel like there is this sort of thing of like when it comes to
he's an interesting character for sure.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I feel like there is this sort of thing of with the just the way I think like with it comes to like what's the word I'm trying to think of? Yeah, I don't really personally I don't really have any shame in like any of my old content. Like it doesn't really bother me that like some of it is like not what I'd make. I've not done anything that I've like would feel like object to particularly, and I just feel like and I know if every person is different, but I kind of feel like there was a lot of stuff that I feel like I could tweak, and to some degree I think sound design is one thing which I'm kind of like to some extent I could see myself tweaking with some things, but when it comes to the actual visual image, like that needs to stay exactly as it was in 2015 or whatever year it was, and I'm kind of happy just to kind of keep those things up there and just move on and move to like what you know.
I'd never make a new version to fix the sound design, but you know, I still look back at Benny and Lee Parallel Panic and I'm like, oh, it bugs me the sound design is literally unfinished. Like it's unfinished. Like there's just missing sound effects. So it bugs me, but I'm never gonna tinker with it.
The only film I've ever
that's what it represents.
The only film I've ever gone back and re-edited was a 4 entry I did where literally we left it so late to do the editing that there was whole scenes which I just didn't have time to drop into the timeline. So that's the one exception.
I also did an updated version of a Brawl entry, but that's kind of different because when you're doing Brawl, you feel like, you know, oh well, I had to submit it for the deadline, but you were never at a point in your mind where you think it's releasable.
Yeah.
Was that your 2018 one?
Mine or BP's?
BP's.
It was. I can't remember what year it was. Degradation. It was the 3rd place one.
Yeah, that's that. Well, actually, I don't remember I don't remember if that was 20. Was that 2020? I don't even remember what it was. But no, I remember that entry. Yeah. It was 2018.
Or was it? Okay, I don't know.
It's 2020.
Years.
Oh my god. And it's just all blurred in my head now.
Yeah. What a years.
Any date past 2020 is just kind of a blur. Like that was the year when time kind of
stopped. Yeah.
Stood still.
I don't know. I think that's a little try. I think for 2020, yes, but like it's 2023 now. Let's get with the times.
Yeah.
Of course, I agree that things
more
have picked
modern.
up again, and
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like I mean, I suppose like most people have like adopted to like or like re-adopted to like the regular like day-to-day schedule as well. Like for me, like my day-to-day schedule is still so out of whack that like time still feels a little funky. But like I get like we're 3 years past this, so we should.
Although I will say that last year when I went to Sweden with Chris and others and went to Germany and I went all around the place and I didn't get COVID and I was like, this is great, it's practically done, right? And then of course then BP came to Ireland, so I didn't even have to leave the country. So I just I was with BP in Blandir and FPP for like 2 or 3 days. It wasn't even long, and I got COVID
3 days.
At the end of last year, and I was like, oh, this sucks. I've avoided it for like 2 years.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's your curse. I apologize. Not that
I think none
was
of
the
the
one that
others
gave
got
it
it
to you.
either.
No, I don't know. We just must have picked it up somewhere where we went.
I remember COVID saved me anyway, because I remembered I had like a week to do like my Brickfilm Day entry because like I was working on something else, so I had school on during the meantime. But then I got COVID, which I was not annoyed, but I was like, oh, I could literally spend the entire week just nonstop animating, trying to get this video on time. And then I did like I think 2 or 3 hours worth of Brickfilm Day edit, so I was just mostly just happy at the COVID.
And you're still in school, getting sick is a blessing.
Oh no, it really
I
is.
could permanently damage my health and lose my sense of taste, but I can finish this brick film.
My brick film. Enjoy that while it lasts.
Oh, I sure will.
Best thing I got out of COVID was making quarantine days.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah,
thank you.
Very good.
Where was I? I submitted, I think, what I submitted? I submitted a video called "Son, Do You Have a Girlfriend" for that, with like medieval knights.
Probably I got a lot of entries for that. So
that one was crazy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Where was it? I remember. I think it was in the thumbnails for episode 3, and it jumped up and down because like, "That's me! That's me!"
Yeah, that is jogging my memory now. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I did like a Tiger King entry as well, so I was like, "That's literally me! Oh my god!"
It's literally me.
Literally me for real.
That should be for real, yeah.
Alrighty. Well, it is about 2:15 right now, so I gotta leave and start getting ready for work. But I just want to say, Will, everybody, thank you all so much, and thank you for letting me be on the podcast. I had a great time.
Right
so
on,
much
yeah.
for still being around and judging and talking and everything.
I'm gonna be judging all of you very harshly, but at the end of the contest, so get ready for that. Your films, I mean. But
I'll
but
be
anyway.
judging you as people.
I
was thinking that, but I wasn't going to say it.
Alrighty, well, anyway, I gotta go. But anyway, yeah, thanks for having me on. It's always a pleasure to be on the World of Brickfilms podcast. I hope we get to do it again sometime soon. But yeah, looking forward to seeing the THAC entries, seeing who makes it, seeing who doesn't, I guess.
Who makes the cut?
But yeah, who makes the cut exactly, or who drops out, who throws in the towel, as it were. Hopefully nobody.
I'm always rooting for Sloth. I always feel like, man, Sloth always tries, but Sloth always makes stuff like so well. Like he goes too far.
He said it's too much. It's too much.
Yeah. If you reel it in, you get to enter it on time. But I guess he just prefers to make what he actually wants.
That was like me in the spin last year, I guess. Well,
yeah.
Anyway. Anywho, I gotta head out. So, anyways, good talking to all y'all, and
Hi, no, it's great talking to you as well.
Thank you. I had a lot of fun.
Bye.
All right.
Bye.
Take care, everybody.
Bye, see ya.
Bye.
Bye.
And also, now we've got like a natural pause. I think I might have to take a bit of a break for the stream just to figure some sort of technical issues out, because there seems to be a bit of an issue with my computer, and
I I'm looking at the screen now, and you've almost got your two pictures combined.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's-
suddenly oh, there we go. No, wait, no, it's completely ruined now.
Now
Yeah.
you're covering me.
Yeah.
Yeah, just completely.
It's William and William. Yeah. So and what makes it even better is that we're slightly out of sync with each other. So it's like, yeah, it's like someone's repeating me.
They're up in the boxes. Like
Yeah.
Brady Bunch.
No, yeah, I'm gonna have to if I can even actually stop the stream, because that's gonna be a problem for me right now.
Well, why do you have like the two versions of you though?
So
Because the one version is out of sync or something.
yeah, it's a bit of a lag, and I wanted to have the webcam like an extra window just so that it's a bit better. But what I'm thinking is if I stop the stream, maybe I'll just go just with with that one window, just to so we don't.
Well, will that like end the stream and then creates a new one or what?
I'm not sure how it works, because I think I'm going to end up having to just sort of
Well,
like.
I know for me during the Bimcraft thing when we fought the Ender Dragon, my power or the internet went out, and then it came back and it just had like a pause and then came back later. So maybe it'll do that, but
I'm going to literally have to just sort of turn the computer off by the button, I think, because there's nothing else I could do. So
This is risky, but let's see what happens.
yeah.
Can you put on like a continued screen right
yeah,
now?
stay tuned, everybody, if you're watching.
Yeah.
because
Next
I gotta
time
go.
on
I
We'll
gotta
figure out what happens.
I gotta go anyway. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Nathan.
Bye bye.
Yeah, I'm thinking that I might have to yeah. Okay guys, so I'm gonna say it's gonna be goodbye for me anyway. So goodbye guys, and hopefully I'll be back
See you
on
on
it soon.
Right.
And if
See you on the other side.
if the stream ends now, we'll be back hopefully within like fairly soon. Okay. Right.
I might have to dip now as well, so I just want to say before you go, thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming on, and I'm sorry that
Yeah.
I talked about a bunch of old stuff while you were here.
No, it is that's like watching the podcast just